What's up, FTK family? Welcome back to another episode of For the Kingdom, where we talk all things faith, love, kingdom growth, and having those tough conversations. I'm your host, Faith, and today we have another very, very wonderful special guest, Pastor David T. Young. Round of applause. Sound effect. How you doing, Pastor Young?
I'm doing
Feeling
well.
all right?
I'm well.
Good. I'm glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us today.
Good to be here.
Yes, sir.
Blessing.
All right. So why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, what do you want to know?
Just anything about life, how you were called into the ministry.
Okay, well, back in, I just start from my first experience. I was about 4 years old. Okay, and the Reverend Grissom always gets a kick out of this because he still jokes me about it today. But I was about 4 years old, and I had a frog, and my frog died. Mm-hmm. So I had a funeral, and I preached my frog's funeral at the age of 4. And the title of my sermon was "Don't You Know?" And that's all I said the whole sermon. Don't you know? Nothing else with it. Nothing else, But that was at 4. Mm-hmm. So, not knowing then that that I had a calling on my life, but that was whenever anybody asked me when I preached my first sermon, that's when it was. When I preached my frog sermon, my frog's funeral at the age of 4. We lived over on we called it Graveyard Street at the time. It's right there, where the Prides live. We live like 3 houses down from the Prides. So, but that's where I got my start. And but in reality, after that, of course, went to school at Cortland, elementary school, Cortland High School, graduated in 1983. Was salutatorian in my class, made my salutatorian speech in 1983. Went on to Alabama A&M, studied computer science and management. After doing that, as soon as I got out, the first year, I actually taught school at Lawrence County High School, in Moulton. And then after that, I went into the workforce and put my management background to work. And I got my first job at Englehart in Madison. It's called BASF now. And I was a production supervisor for years. And but while I was working there in 1988, that's when I received my calling. And I was actually sitting on the line working. And it was this gentleman, and I'll never forget it. I used to see him every day. We worked second shift, and he would come and he would be like, he said, man, you may as well go ahead and do it. I was like, man, what are you talking about? He said, you know what he's calling you to do? You may as well go ahead and do it. I was like, man, I don't know what you're talking about. And he would say that every night. So one night I'm sitting there and I'm waiting on these parts to come down. And when the parts would come down, I would have to take them off and I put them on the scale so they could weigh. It was catalytic converters, what they were. And I would have to weigh them. So this particular night I'm sitting here and I had been struggling. I knew, what I was going through. I knew God was calling me. And I'm sitting here and all of a sudden this lamb appeared to me clear as day. And then I looked and I closed my eyes and I opened back up to look and see if I could get another view, and it was gone. And that night I said, Lord, I know it is time. And so I was so excited about doing it, about answering my call. And I went looking for this guy. Never seen him again. I started asking people where he was. Nobody seen him. Nobody knew who I was talking about. Wow, yeah.
Do you remember how old you were?
Huh?
You remember how old you were?
I was 22.
Wow.
I was 22 years old.
How old you, Faith?
23.
Yeah, about 22 years old. So, and I turned 23, later, but it was 22. And after that, when I told Reverend Grissom, I said, Reverend Grissom, I've been called to preach. And, he asked me a series of questions, and he was wanting to make sure that, that I was sure. I said, man, I don't have any doubt about my calling. So all that took place. And then right afterward, about 6 weeks later, I preached my first sermon. Well, my second sermon. The first one was at 4. So, but he gave me all of this time. He said, you need to prepare. So all this time, and I would go down to Jackson Chapel, where I pastor now. I would go down there every night and study and work on that sermon for that first sermon that I preached. And I'll never forget when that day finally came. I was in the back, man, and I was when you talking about nervous, I was like shaking in my boots. And when it came time to go out, the Reverend Grissom said, it's time. And I walked out there, and it was so many people. People everywhere. The pulpit was full of chairs. Preachers, Roger Pride, all these folk here. They were everywhere. I'm like, man. But believe it or not, as far as faces are concerned, the people in the pulpit were the only faces that I could see. Because when I walked out, I couldn't stare at nobody. I sit down in that seat, and I remember when it was time for me to get up, and the title of my sermon, Without Christ, I Am Nothing. Okay?
I like that. They'll preach.
Yeah, and just think about it. Christian, Christ, Christ, I-A-N. Without Christ, N, I am nothing. So that was the title of my sermon.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'll never forget it. And right after that, the annual conference came up after I preached my first sermon. I went to the annual conference, and the bishop said, we're sending you out to pastor the church. So here I am, brand new, and being sent out. So I was assigned 2 churches. Now, this was the first time, pastor. Never pastored before. Now, I had watched Reverend Grissom, and, he let me, conduct children's church during the time I was still there. But when it came time, I had to drive an hour and a half one way from my house. This is my first year at the age of 23, okay? So I drove to Hamilton. I was in Hamilton on 2nd and 4th Sundays each month. And I was at Gew in Alabama at Real Chapel the 1st and 3rd Sunday each month. Okay? So being brand new, getting to know people, learning people, knew nothing about pastoring, had no idea, but I knew, I just kind of tried to remember what I had been taught. And I thought about all of the preachers pastors that I had prior to, and there were a lot of things, a lot of nuggets that I took from them. And even today, they're still there, and it helps. I can remember when your dad, or Bishop Davis, when he first started preaching, because I started before he did. And I remember when he came on, and I was like, man, this is something different. But that's pretty much it. That's how I got my start, and I'm at my 9th church that I pastored over the course of year 37.
It's a blessing. I forgot to even mention the church he pastors, y'all. Jackson Chapel CME Church, Cortland.
Yes, ma'am.
Alabama.
I've been there for 5 years.
Doing a eulogy for his frog to pastoring God's sheep. So, Pastor Young, what was life like before you surrendered? Were there some things you struggled with in life?
It was. I think one of the things that I look back on now is that uh, I tried my best to do everything that I could not to surrender. I mean, I promise you, I did everything. I mean, I used to even when I was in high school, I used to dress. I wear a tie to school. I had my baggy pants on with the pleats on the front and the dress shoe. That's the way I went to school. Had a briefcase. Yeah, but during this time that I was struggling with that calling and not wanting to go, I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. So my whole mindset, was different. I was like, I go to church. I didn't want to dress up. I started dressing differently. I started going from sitting at the front to sitting at the back. I would go to church when before the preacher would start preaching. I would leave. I would come before the offering, or leave before the offering. So I had all of these things that I wanted to do, and one of the things, Mama would make sure we went to Sunday school. So I would go to Sunday school, and then I'd sneak off and go to the drugstore and buy drinks and all that kind of thing. And this one day I decided that I wasn't going to go, and I walked to the drugstore, bought me an orange soda. I never forget it. So I'm going to ease on back, and this was before they had all them decorations downtown. They had these little, I call them little semi-ponds. They had concrete barriers around little bodies of water, and they would, moss would grow on them. So I'm going to step up on this drinking my orange drink. I stepped up on that moss, and I slipped. I fell, busted my drink, cut my hand, and, of course, messed up my clothes. And I went home, and Mama said, "You think you stand at home?" Nope. You put no clothes on, changing clothes, you're going right back to church. So I struggled with a lot of things trying not to do it. As a young person, I wasn't no rowdy person, but we had this little thing that we used to do growing up, and we used to have these little brown paper bags, and we'd tear them into pieces of paper. And there was some stuff that grew out at the mountain out there, South Pike. We called it the mountain. And it was rabbit tobacco. It was stuff, and you would take it and you roll it and you smoke it like a cigarette. So one day I was outside smoking my rabbit tobacco. And this man that lived down the street from us, I ain't gonna call no name, but he came by and he saw me smoking. He hit the brakes on his car. He came at me, and he was finna get me until he realized I wasn't smoking marijuana, because he thought I was smoking marijuana. That guy right there. Yeah, but it was kind of funny, but like I said, I wasn't really rowdy.
What about college? Like, was that a
now
culture
college
shock going from home to?
Well, it was, because I went. Of course, I went to the Hill. I was at Alabama A&M. Went up there in 1983, and was there till 87. And the first year, I was like gung ho. I was like, man, I'm away from home. But what had been instilled in me was, making sure I got my lesson. So the first year up there, I was freshman honor student, and man, I was like, man, yeah, this is gonna be easy. Wrong. That was just that first year. I mean, it started to change. And because I started seeing some things that I wasn't used to seeing, so the block parties started to seem more important than going to class sometimes, especially in the warm weather, because all the fraternities and things like that, they out there stepping on the block, and, you got all these different sororities, they stepping on the block, and, I was like, well, and I just happened to see this, this one group, and they were AKAs. So I like, man, I said, why? This is just a certain group of people. I mean, they all, had this certain look, and so I was like, well, maybe, there may be something that I need to think about. But that freshman, that sophomore year, I mean, things begin to change. I started to do a lot of things I didn't used to do. Didn't go to a lot of clubs, but I went to dances all the time. I went to frat parties, things of that nature. I did.
Because
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening to these young ladies going to college, and one of them said that when you get in college, you are kind of on your own as far as people telling you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard you talk about the frat parties and all that kind of stuff. Was it like that for you? Since I do, ladies and gentlemen, I do know this pastor. Was it like that for you when you didn't have the roof? I know your mom, and I knew how she ruled with an iron hand.
Mm-hmm.
Was it like you was away from that authority thing, and you was kind of like had to use your own morale? What I'm trying to get to was there something in your ear telling you that you need to go to the kingdom?
At that point, yes, it was because of what had been instilled in me. But at the same time, I still have to revert back to the two shoulder people. One on this side, one on this one right here. That one on this side, telling you need to go to that party. And this one right here says, no, you don't need to go to that party. This one right here says, yeah, you need to go to that party. This one right here, and sometimes this one on this side wins. And you end up, but you still hear that voice. You still hear like, when Mama would get mad at me, she'd always call me David Terrence. David Terrence, now you know better. Or when she say David Terrence, the phone is fixing to fly toward my head, or I'm fixing to have to go get 3 or 4 switches and tie them together, or the extension cord, or all those things. So those that memory was still there, and I knew that even when I was up there, I still knew who I represented. Okay, and I still knew what my upbringing was, and there were certain things that I just would not do, and I never fiddled around with with drugs or anything like that. I never wanted to, never tried it, didn't want to think about it. Now, I'm not gonna say I didn't take a sip or something every now and then, which that was the case. I did do that, and every now and then I'll try to play around.
Sip.
Yeah. And I just try to play around. Like if I wanted to be cool, I'd buy these little Swisher Sweet cigars and stick it in the corner of my mouth. They never smoke, but I'll sit it there and then just let it burn. Or if I pull it, I just blow it right back out. Never inhaled anything, none of that kind of thing. But it was part of the process, So
you were wanting to fit in. Is that what drew you to
I
those
think that was pretty much it, because a lot of my friends, I met a lot of people, because when you go, like Wyatt said, when you go up there, you really don't know any people. There are people coming from all walks of life.
Yes,
They're
sir.
coming from different parts of of the even the continent. Because I remember when I lived in Mars Hall, there were a lot of people from Nigeria that were in our dormitory, and then I had people there from and this is HBCU, and seeing this, it was a culture shock, but you still had to remember. I mean, I always think about the prodigal son, knowing what he had left at home, but yet he still needed to get out there and experience life. And by experiencing that, even today, the scripture says, "He that puts his hand to the plow and keeps looking back is not fit for the kingdom." But I always like to say this: if you don't never remember where you come from, can't remember where you're going. You have to have a past in order to have a future. Okay, and that's the way I see it. There's always you have to come from somewhere, and but it was tough. I mean, I had tough times, and
So how do you
go ahead.
All right. So both of you were talking about having fun, some of the struggles of deciding the transition of, I kind of want to do this, but I kind of want to do that. So on one of the episodes, the young ladies talked about having fun as a Christian, the transition. So we're going to play this clip, and I'd like to to ask two questions.
The things that we used to do ain't fun no more. So are we having fun now?
Without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
Listen, I said this in the Friends episode. I'll be having fun, y'all. I love to laugh. I love to do things. Now, I guess fun looks different for everybody, right? I mean, I guess. And the things that maybe you like to do. I think that's one of the things that kind of prevented me from crossing, if so to speak, if you will, to the other side of the walk we're on, was that like my life is not gonna be fun anymore. Like I'm not gonna be able to do certain things anymore. Not gonna be able to drink no more. Okay, I can't go to the club. Okay, I can't do this. Okay, I can't do that. But really, walking with God is just so much more freedom in that your personality don't change just because you closer to God.
Talk about that.
Like that's what I'm saying. You can still laugh and have fun. Like I'm gonna cut up. But I love the Lord, so I think my want-tos have changed. And so when you get to know God in that way, you don't desire the same things. But I mean, I don't look down on people who still do those things. I'm not being funny. I'm just different. I just changed my perspective. So
I think some people do think you have to change your whole personality once you come to Christ.
That's
Like you
crazy.
can't crack a smile, you can't crack a joke.
And you got to talk about God 24/7. Can we talk about sports or like how's the weather? Listen,
Bruh.
like yeah.
Because now my jokes, they're less perverse, but I'm still gonna pop me a joke.
You know, I love TikTok.
Adjustments.
TikTok is something, you know. So like, yeah, I mean, like we talk about all the time, just doing certain things. You don't have to. You can do other things besides go to the club and stuff. I mean,
And church.
and church. I mean, that.
Talked about concerts last episode. Concerts, going out to eat.
Yeah.
It is fun. It's more fulfilling too. Like it's not just fun. Like I feel like my life is more meaningful, purposeful now.
I don't have to come back home with shame.
Okay. And I think you have to define what you consider to be fun. And when I pastored in Decatur, I pastored in New Jones, and we used to have different things that we would do. We would go. They would come to my house, and we play horseshoes. We play spade. You know, we incorporate a whole lot of things. You know, just to have fun. You know, and by doing that, the backing of the young people, I mean, it was extraordinary. Even today, you go down there to that church, and you go back there in the fellowship hall, and there's all of these trophies where what they won at different contests, of where we would go to the annual meetings, and they would have like a Bible Bowl contest and talent contests, and they just because we incorporated so many things, and I think what happens is a lot of people have the mindset that becoming a Christian is sour. They think all the fun is gone. But when you start thinking about some of the things that we considered to be fun at one time, those are the things that kept us in a whole lot of trouble at different times. For instance, somebody may think that drinking a lot is fun, but when you think about the consequences, it's really not as much fun as you think. So being a Christian and having fun and laughing, I mean, we cut up all the time. I mean, even when I'm in Bible study, you need to look at something about, they were cracking up last night. I mean, but you have to incorporate that kind of thing, because a lot of people have the wrong idea about what Christianity is. And God wouldn't have given us the personality or even given us the ability to laugh if he didn't intend for us to laugh. He wouldn't have given us the ability to understand what fun is if he didn't intend for us to have it fun. So, when I listen to that, a lot of people that, do think that, all my fun is gone. But there's a different way. It can be clean, but it can still be fun. I mentioned playing spades. I mean checkers, and one of my members was really, really, really competitive. He used to hate for me to beat him in horseshoes. And man, and then when I win, he's like, "We got to go again." It's an older man.
Is it him? Oh.
Go ahead. No, it wasn't him. No, that was the karate man. Yeah, but it wasn't him. But yeah, but it's about relationships, and you build relationship through having fun activities and things like that, game nights. One of the things that I had to tell a couple of my members, it's been a while back, was that fact that you don't bring a child up teaching them one thing, and then all of a sudden you say, boom, no, that's not correct. You have to make a transition, like the Santa Claus thing, or doing things, like the Easter Bunny and all those things. It's all part of a training process. And once you start to train and people start to see the differences, but you don't take the fun out of it, they still see that the joy of Christmas is still the joy of Christmas, but having it for the right reason and not taking Christ out of it and still being able to enjoy.
So how do you balance leading a church and still making time for your personal life, your family, your wife?
Well, I tell you what, the balance it's really a challenge to do it, because when it comes to, of course, I work, full time. I just got off work before I came here tonight, and then of course pastoring, and I have to make time for, visiting members. I have to make time for study. I have to, all those things are part of it, but I also have to make time for Sunday dinners and Taco Tuesday. We have Taco Tuesday every Tuesday, and it doesn't matter what time I get off from work. Even my kids, and they're grown, they still think that daddy's supposed to cook tacos every Tuesday night, or if daddy still got to cook Sunday dinner. I could be on one leg, but it's about their relationship, but knowing that those things are just as important as the other. And if you don't learn to balance them, it'll cause a lot of difficulties. But for 37 years I've been doing it, and God
job.
really blessed. Yeah, God really blessed us.
I feel like my generation, we like transparency. Like we like for you to be approachable. That's what I would say. I don't want to go into a church and feel like the pastor is, up here and on, if that makes sense. Or like he doesn't fall short, or she doesn't fall short. Like being open with their testimony, with their story.
Right.
Making what they're preaching, like making it understandable, if that's the word. Like now, when you being in the media, I can add pictures. As he preaches, I can add pictures to make it more understandable. Okay. I can add music videos or something.
Can I add something to that? And you actually hit on definitely what I was going to say. For the last few weeks, I've been teaching a Bible study based on empowerment, and when I listen to when I listen to
no, leave it in. When
I listen to her, she's talking about empowerment, and that's where you bridge the gap, because when you allow young people to be a part of your ministry, whatever part that they want to partake of. I'll give you an example. We have a young guy that we've been training to do social media. He films for us on the days that my daughter doesn't do it, and it makes him feel like he's a part of it. On 4 Sundays, my young people, they conduct almost the entire service except for the preaching. They do the call to worship, they do the scripture, they do the prayer, they usher, they do all of these things, and not only during that time, enabling them and empowering them to do it even during when it's not just their particular Sunday. And we had a young lady that I talked to, and I asked her, I said, we need to start our kitchen committee back. So I went and talked to her, and she agreed to do it. And I told her, I said, I need you to just go ask people, whoever else you want to be on this committee, just go and ask. And I said, but one thing I want you to make sure you do, get some young people on that kitchen committee. Boom. Guess what? They come to me 16, 15 years old. Pastor Young, guess what? I'm on the kitchen committee. You know, and that's part of it. So when it doesn't matter what the age gap is, but when you can gear things toward whatever age group that you have, I mean, you know, knowing your people is one thing, and being able to reach any group of people on any level that's necessary. That's part of it.
Yeah, and I think to put it all together as you were talking, I was thinking a lot of times when people have to show up for something, they feel more a part of it. And if there's ever an occasion that you can integrate the two, right? Like, you know, grandma and granddaddy sometimes have trouble accessing these smart TVs and YouTube. Well, what if there was a church service that, you know what, we're going to play Pastor Young's episode and just go through it and show grandma, granddaddy, and the aunts and uncles. They had the young people show them. This is what you do. This is how you access it. And then talk. You know, then you have two generations together. One is being, you know, the elders, they're in a learning mode. And then the younger people are in a teaching mode. And there'll be situations and vice versa. So I think those, anytime you can integrate and put people together like that, that always works. It gives you purpose and a reason to talk to people you may not have talked to before.
I had an experience with that because at my home church, you know, the lights are on, like the yellow or lights are on. But at college, it was like a concert type of experience, like red and pink and the lights flashing, like you had a like a night concert. Okay, instead of saying, "Dang, I wish my church was like this," what can I add? What can I bring from what I had learned at college to my church? Now we have lyrics on the screen. It doesn't have to be pink and purple lights flashing, but now we can see the words, we can sing together to increase that experience. So we don't have to go all the way young, all the way traditional, old town way. How can we incorporate, mix in together to make it better?
I think one of the things that our senior choir, they sing a lot of, you know, upbeat contemporary songs, but they also incorporate hymns for the older people, and then also geared to the younger. So those things, like Guy was saying, are very, very important because in business, the company that I work for, we have there's a question about what are the three components of a well-rounded team, and I like to think about that even in the church setting. What are the three components of a well-rounded team? And it's knowledge, skill, and a positive attitude. And you incorporate those three things because you got all these people with all this knowledge. You got these people with these different skill sets. Why not allow those skill sets to be part of your organization? Put them to work. I had to do that, you know, in my early years pastoring. I had a lady that had, she had skills, you know, she worked at a bank. She had all kind of finance skills, but all she did was just sit in church, and she, you know, she'd usher sometime, or she'd be, you know, she'd be just be a stewardess. In other church they call mothers, but anyway. But when we got ready to have our business session to elect officers, I said, this lady right here needs to be on the finance committee. Because I recognized the skill set, and it wasn't no use for it to just sit there and you know, and be dormant. So when I asked her, man, she was excited, you know, and a lot of people weren't, but she was, you know, because they felt like, you know, that they had been doing it a long time, and that's, you know, and that's one of the challenges that you face, you know. Empowerment begins when you start to recognize that if we don't start to incorporate our young people into these leadership roles, who's going to take over when they're gone?
there's times when you're as a leader that people think that leaders should be perfect, especially Christian leaders.
Mm-hmm.
That you should be perfect, and that you can't make mistakes, and that there are no confrontations, right? And you have to make hard decisions, because even when you had to ask the young lady to do that, you know, in the back of your head, I would imagine you're like, oh, I got to deal with such and such. I hope they take it way.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, I hope they can figure out how to work together. So there's on one of the shows, the young ladies are talking about leadership and the challenges that Christian leaders face. So we're gonna play this clip, and then let's talk about our thoughts on it. So,
Okay.
See the sun when it actually matters.
But speaking of that, still, like, I think of, you know, there's sometimes a lot of scandals that can go on. I think in church, well, really anywhere, business things, there's a lot of things. But I think sometimes we look at leaders in particular, and this is kind of a heavy, I think, topic, because I feel like there is a kind of a line you have to draw, but also it's a mix of having grace for people and also holding a standard. And I think it's hard to do that sometimes, I think, with leaders in particular. So, like, if we see a leader, a spiritual leader, you know, it's a scandal going on, or, you know, money's being stolen, or cheating, something going on, you know, it's always a big, like, oh my goodness, this pastor did this, this, and this, which...
And that's happened recently.
Yeah, that is a lot.
A huge giant in the faith.
Yes.
You had a scandal come out. We don't know if it's true or not, but it's like all the condemnation.
I know.
But what really got me was when he had that health scare in front of his congregation. People were like, well, that's what he get for doing that. And I'm like, so he did.
The Saints said that?
The Saints. They were the most. It was mostly Saints in the comments, honestly. We profiting off of YouTube videos.
You saying something?
Got them in the thumbnail.
You saying something?
It's like, so he deserved to have a health scare.
Ooh.
Almost passed away in front of his family and congregation because of that. That may or may not have happened.
Is it a scripture, Judge 9?
It is.
That was disgusting for real.
It was horrible. I mean,
because like regardless if it's true or not, that's somebody's husband, daddy, grandparent.
Absolutely.
Do you think they was thinking about a scandal? They think about is daddy gonna live again?
Hello?
Is he gonna get up?
But you know, I think a big thing is it's sometimes hard for I've done that, and sometimes I think hard for some people to separate the message from the messenger. You know what I mean? Because I think then that's why I said it's such a heavy thing, because I do believe leaders are held to a certain standard and should be, and that's even biblically.
Teachers will be judged
like
harshly.
You are held to a certain standard, but I think it's that the crossover of like how much, like, you have to extend grace, like I said, at the same time as us holding a standard. So like one thing for me, this is an example. I don't know if somebody did this. I'm just using it top of my head, but like if a leader got caught, like I said, stealing money or something, or it was a scandal with money, and he is preaching on tithes. I'm a big believer in tithes. I believe you should pay, you know, your 10%. Some people may not have that same sentiment, but I believe that. And that would be like, well, he's preaching to us about paying our tithes, and he's stealing money, or he's not doing certain things. I think that's what I mean by like accepting the message and not the messenger. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Kind of separating the two. Do you think?
I actually had a point.
Okay.
We shouldn't overlook that person's positive impacts they made because of a scandal. Like that pastor I was just talking about. So we're going to just disregard the souls that were drew to God. We're going to disregard the messages, the quotes, because of the scandal. Like that just doesn't apply anymore because this came out on this man.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that some people may have an issue because of the lack of accountability?
That could also
So now it's some people that's gonna go. They gonna take it there.
Go eat.
I knew it. I knew it. Okay, let's talk about a balanced situation. If a leader, because we're talking about leaders, has a moment, an unfavorable moment, how should he or she handle that situation? Is there a right way to handle that situation?
Well, because the image of perfection can sometimes be a, let me see, what's the proper word? Could be a shield, so to speak, because we know that even in our best days, we still have the tendencies to make mistakes. We're held at a higher standard, and as much as we, should be, because as leaders, and it's not just pastors. I'm talking about any religious leaders in the church, rather, no matter what position you hold. If God calls you, God has a standard that he wants you to try to uphold. And when you do struggle at times, understand that your struggle is not going to be always. Being able to understand that you can go to God at any time, that he, when we, all of us fail at times. And I heard her say something on there about the saints have a tendency to think that, if something happens to a person, it was deserving it because of something that they did. But if God punished us the way that it was said on that screen, if God punished us according to everything that we done wrong, all of us would be dead. I mean, seriously. So just to say that's good for him because of something, but we can't be that critical, because the scripture says all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So we can't condemn people. When the lady that had got caught in the act of committing adultery, and those men brought her to Jesus and said, the law of Moses said that she should be stoned. What do you say? And Jesus didn't say anything. He just kept right on the ground. And they asked him again, did you not hear what we said? This one was caught in the very act of committing adultery. And the first question that I asked was, if she got caught, who did she get caught with? You see what I'm saying? Because it was just her. So what was the guy that she got, so, but, huh? Yeah, he was caught in the act. It didn't say whether male or female. It said if you got caught in the act. So they asked Jesus, and Jesus, he just continued to write. And they insisted on him giving them an answer. So he stopped what he was doing. He stood up. He said, well, okay. He said, I tell you what, I ain't going to tell y'all, and I'm paraphrasing this. I'm not going to tell y'all not to stone her, because that's what the law said. But what I do want you to do, the one of you that is without sin, I let you cast the first stone. So he, in my mind, I started to picture, all these rocks hitting the ground, because they had their rocks ready. They were ready to fire up on it. All Jesus had to say, yep, you're right, do it.
Drop the mic.
Yeah, but, yeah. Yeah, but.
He dropped the mic, they dropped the stone.
Yeah. So the rock started hitting the ground, and Jesus just kept doing what he was doing, and he looked up and he asked the woman, said, where are your accusers? And she said, I have none. And he said, well, I don't condemn you. Go your way and sin no more. And basically,
He wasn't condoning the sin.
No, he wasn't condoning. He just told her, don't sin no more. He was telling her right then, I know you did it, but go and don't do it no more. Right. Yeah, so he didn't condemn her for their act, but he made her realize that she had conducted that act, and she didn't have to be condemned for it. He didn't strike her down. He didn't make her sick. Go ahead.
You were saying that, in the culture now, you got this thing called cancel culture, right? Mm-hmm. And when I sat and thought about that, as we listen and talk, on the podcast and offline, it's how can you cancel culture goes so much against Christ-like living, because all of our sins are forgiven. Mm-hmm. So if our sins are forgiven, how are you gonna cancel me? That's what man is doing. Mm-hmm. But the ultimate is, hey, I already knew what you were gonna do and some things you may do going forward.
Mhm.
I paid for all of them. He said, go forth and say no more.
Mhm.
And just keep working towards being better.
Right.
With me.
Amen.
Yeah.
So as a pastor, how do you stay spiritually refreshed? You know, you prep and you work full time,
Mm-hmm.
Sundays, Wednesdays, visiting
Mm-hmm.
your members. How do you get filled back up?
You have to exhale. I mean, you have to take that time, steal away some time. You know, one of my biggest things is, and y'all gonna think this funny, but my way of exhaling is Marshalls, TJ Maxx, and Ross.
My kind of
I
ex.
got a whole bunch of stuff from those.
You see what I'm saying?
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, there you go. And so, and all the time, not all the time that I'm actually, just looking for something, but I go in there and then I look, and because the worst thing they could have ever done was to build those two stores in Athens, because I work in Athens and I have to pass them on my way home, and I have to just like turn my head, going by. And on Tuesday nights, it's senior night, so if you're 55 or over, you get an extra 30% off on Tuesdays at Ross. So, I'll drop in there and I say, well, I'm ready for my OFG. And she said, your OFG? I said, yeah, my old folks, the lads, my OFG, yeah, my old folks goodies, And she was like, what do you mean? I said, well, I get the discount, so, so they go in there and get my discount. But it's just different thing that you do. Sometimes, I may drive down, to the gravesite where my mom buried, just to exhale, or just different things that I do. Just because, like you were saying a while ago, you're not gonna be reading your Bible 24 hours a day. You're not gonna be singing gospel songs 24 hours a day. There's those breaking periods in there. And a lot of people think that that's what you got to do all the time.
I was waiting for the moment to incorporate this because this is one of Faith's favorite topics on this episode.
Yes, I love music.
So let's take a listen.
But all music is not blues.
Mm-hmm.
What they call but can it degrade you, or can it influence you, degrade your Christian walk?
I mean, anything can if you let it. But we need to stop putting all music into one category. Like there's a difference between secular music and carnal music. Mm-hmm. Carnal music, that's glorifying the stuff of the flesh, like lust, sex outside of marriage, offing people, drunkenness, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Secular music, twinkle twinkle little star,
Happy birthday.
Happy for real.
Yeah.
But can it bring something out of you that's not already in you?
Mm.
It brings something out of you that's not already in you.
Most definitely.
Well, I think what we have to remember is the scripture says it's not what goes into the body. I mean, what comes out what defiles a man. Music does not define you, but if you allow it to determine who you are, if it shapes you, and they come, like in my store, I turn on iHeartRadio, and I have iHeartRadio on in my store just so there's no quietness, because I can't stand for it to just be quiet. Mm-hmm. So sometimes, they'll have jazz playing, and sometimes they have blues playing, and somebody come in there and they be like, what you got playing in your store? And until they say something, I don't even pay it. I don't even know, because the music just playing. I'm not sitting there listening at it, but it's playing. But if something catches my ear, because one of my favorite songs is a country song, the country music
Right
song.
up my alley.
Mm-hmm.
Music.
And you talk about that.
Like I heard her say something about, I know every word to Rapper's Delight. Every single word. I used to sing it all the time, still do. Matter of fact,
I know
when
that's
my daughter got married at her wedding reception, when we walked in, we started that song started playing, and I started doing those lyrics. And there's nothing. I didn't feel there was nothing wrong with Rapper's Delight, because there's nothing dirty about it, But it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of the segment. People tend to want to think that Christians are a certain way because they've made up in their mind that's the way they're supposed to be. That's the way they're supposed to act. They don't supposed to listen to this. I grew up in a house that I heard Bobby Blue Bland playing, and I heard, but at the same time, even though I was hearing blues, then I would also hear, the what's the name of them people? One of my favorite gospel groups, but I knew them all, and I would have those tapes, cassette tapes. I'd play them in my truck, and I'd also have the Rapper's Delight in my truck, but Rapper's Delight didn't take away from my relationship with Christ, hearing that, but some of the stuff that is listened to today, some of that stuff is not worth listening to, because when you start degrading people and everything has to be vulgar and all that kind of thing, then Christians need to stay away from that type thing. But I would hate for somebody to try to go and slow dance off of Amazing Grace. You see what I'm saying? So you got to have enough sense to know that there's a difference between those two, and there's nothing wrong with dancing. Okay. And so you're not going to dance off Amazing Grace. You're not going to dance off Pass Me Not, O Gentle Savior. You're not going to dance off any of those things. But when there are certain things that keeps us, we're still spiritual, but at the same time, we have to know how to not say that we're so spiritual that we don't understand that there is a gap where God wants us to be people as well.
I see you ain't worried about getting kicked out of
Oh no. Mm-mm.
Now, Pastor, I can't slide by that. Now, you said your favorite song is a country song. I like country music. What is it? So I can add it to my playlist.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and put this out there, and for the record, I don't drink whiskey.
For the record.
Okay. But the lyrics of Tennessee Whiskey, that is a bad song.
It's a good song.
Tennessee whiskey.
It's a bad song.
Okay.
And the first time I heard it, I said, man, I got to hear that again. It wasn't the fact of what he was saying, but it was how the lyrics was and how he sung that and putting all that together. So that's it.
And it didn't stop you from being a pastor.
No, sir. It did. It had nothing to do with it. Had nothing to do with it. So and I can hear it today, and I'll stop and listen to it because I like the song. Now it's not gonna make me go buy a bottle of Jack Daniels or strawberry wine, any of those kind of things what it talks about in there. But it's just it's just the song itself. So and again, if we know who we are, we don't have a problem with those things. When we're trying to be something that we're not and we're faking, that's when we have a problem with those kind of things, because we want to, we don't want nobody to see us do it or hear us say it, but in private we want to do it,
But the one
who knows.
see
Right.
it,
Right. Yeah. So again, we have to be, there's a certain amount of realism that we have to have, and you talked about transparency a while ago, and
See, that's drawing me
Yeah.
because he being real.
yeah. So, but that that's it. So when you
I
real,
like
that makes a difference.
Yes, sir. Now, I know time is winding down, but I got to ask you a relationship
Okay.
question because you're so wise. I need your input. Okay. So what are some qualities men and women should look for in a spouse?
Well, I'm gonna put it this way, and I have to start it on the spiritual realm first. the scripture speaks about being unequally yoked, and whatever qualities that you have and what you're looking for, I think a lot of times we feel like we have to settle, and we choose just to be choosing, and then when it don't work, we'll say, well, God sent them to me. But do we seek God in the choosing process? You know what you're looking for. You want somebody that's going to be spiritual. You want somebody that's not going to have a problem with you. Being in at church or worshiping, and you don't want somebody that's going to be so jealous that you can't be a person. You don't want nobody that's going to be possessive. So, but when you start looking for those qualities, you looking for somebody that's going to help hold you up, not somebody that's going to pull you down. Mm-hmm. So, in every aspect of life, and so I think that's the biggest thing when you looking. You got to make sure that you don't settle, because you know that you're a Christian, so you're not going to go out there and say, well, I can change him, or I can pull him to this, or he can, that's the wrong direction to go. And I feel like if you meet a person in the right place, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
If you meet them in the right place, that's always going to be a positive sign. Because if you meet them in the club, sometimes that's not the right place. I'm just putting it out there.
I heard another pastor say, you're expecting loyalty from someone who's telling you they're controlled by substances.
Right.
So
but how
it matters where you meet.
Yeah, it does matter. Mm-hmm. And meeting on, and you look for the similarities. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you also look for if somebody that's gonna have your back, going to support you in everything that you do. And like I said a while ago, to help lift you up and carry you at a time when you need carrying.
Yes, sir. That's good for both men and women.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I can't resist my
Classic
question.
Go ahead.
I think my brother over here knew I wanted to. So you mentioned earlier, you were talking about music that, if you courted a female or whatever, you likely are not to play Amazing Grace. So if a young man came to you in church and say, Pastor, I see this young lady, I really like her. How should I approach her and let her know that I'm interested with the concept of I want to do it the right way. I'm interested, and I am attracted to her. I mean, I like what I see. So if a young man comes and asks you that, and to add a little context to it, he's around 16 or 17. What would you recommend? In my day, we said spit game. I think the kids I call it Riz. What would you tell him to do?
Well, I would tell him, well, first of all, you just need to go talk to her. First thing. Because a lot of people jump into the thing without knowing a person. So you have to look at it when you're interested, is the attraction physical, or is it the overall individual? The quality that she has, or, not just,
Physical, you mean the beauty? I said beauty.
Yeah, beauty. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, the beauty, and, back in the day, there was a song that we used to hear all the time, and it had some dimensions with it, and it was called A Brick House. And the dimensions were 36, 24, 36, right? So are you basing that attraction on the dimensions, or are you basing it on the individual? Are you basing it on the overall look? Just because she she light complected. She got pretty eyes. She got long hair, or she's this and she's that. And if that, if that's what you're basing it on, you got to learn that individual, because she can look as good as she needs to look, but her inside may look just awful. So the attraction, you learn how to go. You go and you talk to the person and see what kind of common things y'all have in common. Yeah. Mm-hmm. and so it is, because you do a lot of social media, okay, and sometimes I scan through. Sometimes I wake up at night and I say, well, I'm gonna see what kind of new video they put on, and one of the ones that always pops up is this gold digger prank, and they the girl don't want to talk to the guy. He's and he don't look bad, but she said, I'm not interested, and she'll walk on by her business, and then he'll go get in his car, and she'll come running back to the car. He said, I thought you weren't interested. Well, I didn't know you were driving this. You see what I'm saying? So, but so a lot of things are more on the physical rather than, being able to connect on a spiritual level as well. So you have to stay away from that. From a man's perspective, and I'm just going to be honest with you, a lot of times they think, when the lady gets to a certain age and they don't look the way they used to look, it's an issue. But then that man needs to stop and think, you don't look the way you used to look either. So, it's a change process. So it's not all about, the physical, but it's the spiritual connection.
That's good. Well, thank you, Pastor Young, for being here. We've enjoyed you, all of us, I know.
Well, thank y'all for having me. It's been fun. I hope I didn't leave too much out on the table.
No, sir. Where can the people watch you preach and minister? Do you have Facebook, YouTube?
We're on Facebook. We've got Living Word records us sometime. My Facebook page, David T. Young Senior. It's on there. Of course, we do have a YouTube page that's I think is uploaded usually by Monday night or Tuesday, and also Jackson Chapel. Okay. Also, so those are always and we're open. You can always come down to Chapel. We're right down there on Water Street across the railroad track.
I got to visit after tonight.
Yeah, if you pass the police station and the fire department, we're right down there. And we have a wonderful group of people. We got some fire musicians, and we got some singing people, and they're excited. I got 2 grandbabies that sing in the choir, one 12 and one 6. So yeah, if y'all want to come, we would be glad to have you at any time.
Thank you for the invite. Yeah. Well, that's all we have today on today's episode. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and remember, it's not personal, it's just kingdom business.
All right.